Welcome back to Baschamania, the podcast with the best wrestlers in the country and the world. This is episode 17. Today we switch course a little bit. We're sticking with wrestling, but we're navigating into WWE waters a little bit. Gerald Brisco is on the show today, a former Oklahoma State Cowboy. Gerald Brisco is a WWE Hall of Famer and current talent scout for the WWE. Jerry actively recruits talent in this context, especially from the NCAA wrestling scene, and our paths crossed because we're both adamant about who's up and coming. We're both obviously really big NCAA wrestling and college wrestling fans. I am pumped to talk to a living legend and to be able to bring the conversation to you guys. Without further ado, let's get into today's show.
It's Baschamania! Let me tell you something, brother. He gave us everything he had in him tonight. What you gonna do when Baschamania runs wild? Oh, it's gonna be a good one. And business just picked up here on the podcast. Oh, yeah.
All right, guys, let's get Jerry on the phone. But before we do, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, trust me, there are going to be more good episodes. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, you name it, wherever is convenient for you to listen, we're probably there. Go ahead and subscribe. And not for nothing, if you do subscribe, let me know. I want to thank you, and it means a lot to know you guys are subscribed to the show. Mr. Gerald Brisco, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Appreciate you being on your show.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you on. I grew up a diehard WWE fan. I grew up a diehard wrestling fan. I wrestled through middle school, high school. It was never any good, but I loved it. And I actually got started in JV wrestling and modified back in 96, 97. And that was right around one of my favorite times in all of pro wrestling, the Attitude Era. And I, of course, remember the Stooges storyline, which was hands down one of my favorite.
Mine too.
Definitely. So let's go back a little bit. Kind of want to navigate through a few different areas here. Starting back in the early days, you got started wrestling in high school. What got you started in amateur wrestling?
Well, actually, I actually started youth wrestling when I was 7, 8 years old, and I grew up in a little town in Oklahoma called Blackwell, Oklahoma. Our main rival was Perry, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Of course, who's from Perry, Oklahoma? Dan Hodge,
Yep.
One and only Dan Hodge. Well, I got to see Dan. I've really been blessed because I've seen so many of the greats. I got to see Dan, of course, wrestling at OU, and actually it kind of wanted my brother and I both to go to OU in the beginning because of Hodge, and he grew up in a little town like 15 miles away from us, so we were almost like neighbors, and nowadays it would be neighbors,
right?
But he was a major influence on me, and like I said, I entered the tournament. My brother Jack who was an NCAA champion at Oklahoma State at 191 in 1965. I believe he lost one match in his college career, and that was in his junior year in the national finals, and to Harry Huska, a longtime Ohio University coach. I was the only guy that beat Jack in college. Jack left school a year early because he'd gotten married and had 3 kids at the time, and he left school a year early. We didn't have anything. My mom was a single mom with 6 kids, and so he left school, and because of Danny Hodge's influence, seeing Danny Hodge turned pro wrestler there in Oklahoma shortly after his amateur career was over with, and we grew up watching Hodge, and when Hodge jumped to pro, that's my brother said, that's what I'm gonna be, and I was still in school wrestling at the time in Oklahoma, and so Jack went on to Oklahoma State, became a national champion, and part of the reason he went to Oklahoma State, like I said, he wanted to be a OU guy because of Hodge, but Bud Wilkinson was a football coach at OU, and he offered Jack a football scholarship where he could wrestle also. So Jack said, I'll take that. But Jack's dream was to become a pro wrestler. So Myron Roderick was coach at Oklahoma State University during that time frame. Well, Myron had learned that Jack wanted to be a professional wrestler. So the promoter in Oklahoma, a guy by the name of Leroy McGurk, was also an Oklahoma A&M two-time NCAA champion. And so Jack had signed a football scholarship, as I said, with Bud Wilkinson. So Myron Roderick called Leroy McGurk, who was the promoter, like I said, over there, and that Danny Hodge actually worked for. So Roderick told McGurk about Jack, and Jack wanted to follow Hodge's footsteps, but he was going to OU, and he wanted him to be a Cowboy. And asked Leroy if he'd help, and Leroy said, "I'll tell you what, I'll give him a call and tell him if he goes to OSU, I'll sign him a contract the second he gets out of school and ready to be pro. He's got a job." Wow. So Leroy called my brother. My brother immediately he just signed a letter of intent and jumped out of that letter of intent for football and signed a letter of intent for wrestling to Oklahoma State, and ended up wrestling at Oklahoma State. So the family packed up, and we moved up to Stillwater from Blackwell, and I wrestled at Stillwater High School, was in state finals 3 times, kind of like you, and never won a single tournament. But I was in the finals at Oklahoma back when we had one division 3 times and lost 3 times in the state finals. And but I got a scholarship, ended up getting a scholarship to Oklahoma State, went to Oklahoma State, and my career wasn't as illustrious as my brother's, 2-time All-American, NCAA champion, and 2-time finalist. I was behind Fred Fozzard, who ended up being USA's first freestyle world champion. And the weight next to us was Bill Harlow, who was also a United States Olympian and 2-time NCAA champion. So I struggled there at Oklahoma State. Even putting on a uniform. I wrestled some JV matches and stuff like that. But my career wasn't going anywhere. Plus, my last year, I blew my knee out, and I couldn't. I was out for a year, and Jack was making money there in Oklahoma. Like I said, my mom was a single mom. We didn't have much money, so I was on spring break with my brother. And we were up in Joplin, Missouri, and his tag team partner got hurt the night before. And so Jack was in the main event and didn't have a tag team partner. And I'd traveled with Jack during spring break and summer breaks, and I even got to drive a ring truck and set up a ring during the summer for a summer job. So I was around wrestling, professional wrestling a little bit, but I didn't know how to do it. Right. So I was sitting in the dressing room talking to my brother, and one of the guys came up, the referee, one of the officials that came up and said, "Hey, Jack, Gorgeous George Jr., that was Jack's partner, got hurt tonight. You don't have a partner." And Jack looked at me and said, "Yes, I do. My brother will be my partner tonight." What? I don't know how to. And so we got Hodge, we got Jack, and a couple other guys showed me how to do a headlock, showed me how to do a takeover. I already knew how to do a takedown, and I got to do the match on one condition. They made me promise that I would not throw a punch or kick anybody. So it was all basically wrestling. So I borrowed a pair of tights from my brother and borrowed a pair of shoes from somebody else, and went out and used gear and went out and had a tag team match. And it went great, and the promoter heard about it, and he said, "Hey, when are you going to start?" I said, "Well, I kind of need a job now. I'm not doing anything at school." So he said, "When can you start?" So I went home. I was afraid to tell my mom because she'd beat up my brother and I both if I told her I was leaving school. Also, she was so upset when Jack left school. So I said, "Mom, the old promise. I got an exit plan. I'll do this for a while and I'll come back. And I wanted to be a wrestling coach. That was my dream, to be a wrestling coach. And I'll finish school, but I get my chance to make some money." And she said, "Well, as long as you give me your word, you'll finish school." And I said, "Well, I'll try."
Right.
So I took off, and I became a pro wrestler. And my exit plan never did work because 60, almost 50 some odd years later, this was 1969, 68, 69, 69, I believe it was. I'm still wrestling in 2019, so or not wrestling, but working in a professional wrestling business. So my exit plan did not work.
But I think it played out well, and so it's interesting, you know. Nowadays, like, kids want to grow up and be a superstar, and then they become a wrestler because that's the path. It's interesting that you kind of fell into it, saying it's like a movie. Hey, I need a tag team partner. Can you fill the boots tonight? And you actually did it, which is nuts. And then, so what was the transition between taking that match and then when you started with the WWE? Was it just a natural progression, or was there anything in there that happened kind of overnight, or was it just a grinder putting the work in?
Well, it definitely wasn't overnight. Now, this is 1969 that I filled in for my brother. I started wrestling professionally full time in 1970. I was so lucky that my brother was talented like he was. He had already been to Japan and Australia. So when I started, I worked around Oklahoma, making my $25, $20 a night, driving 600 miles round trip for $25, $30. But you got to consider gas was 10 cents a gallon, and a 6-pack of beer was 55 cents. So, as long as you could gas up your tank and gas up get you a 6-pack of beer for under $1, you were okay. So that $25 went a long ways back then, And even when I was finishing up school, my mom wouldn't let me drop out of school. I had to finish up the semester. I remember one day, kid, I got a shot for you. You'll make $100. And man, making $100 back in 1969, 1970 in one night was unbelievable. He said, but the caveat is you got to go to Fort Smith, Arkansas, Hot Springs, Arkansas to get it. That's 320 miles from Stillwater.
Wow. And
I had a 7 a.m. class. And, of course, I was a good boy. I told Mom, she said, as long as you're at class in the morning, I don't care. If you're in bed, I'm going to wake you up, and you're going to go to class. I said, okay, I'll make it, but I want to make this $100. I got my old Ford Fairlane, gassed it up, and drove 330 miles one way, collected me $100. I worked that night. I can't even remember who I wrestled with, Hot Springs, Arkansas. Turned around, got back in my car, got me a 6-pack of beer, and I nursed that 6-pack all the way back to Stillwater. Got back to Stillwater about the time the sun was coming up, and went in, laid down. I think it was 4:30, and about 5:30 a.m., 6:30, my mom comes in, wake me up. You got to go to class. 7:30 class. I got up, showered, took my butt to class and everything. So it wasn't no quick turnaround. Then I went to Australia, and I lived down there for a year. Worked for a promoter down there. Got to go to Japan 3 or 4 times, and then I ended up in North Carolina in 1970, I believe it was. 1971. And worked there for a few years, met my lovely wife there, and then we moved to Florida. And I've been working in and out of Florida for several years. And during the course, I always knew, my brother and I always knew that, you couldn't do this forever. And you got to have something to fall back on. We both left school early, but, we weren't no dummies either. So we knew we had to start a business. So we started a couple of businesses and invested in some territories. Back in the wrestling organizations were called territories because they were local. And you had a local territory that you worked out of. We worked out of Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas, 3 different territories. We kind of rotated around a lot, in those 3 areas there. And so both Florida and Georgia wanted my brother and I to stay, so they offered us to purchase stock in the company, and as a way to get us to stay in that area for longer periods of time and make better money. So we both jumped at the opportunity to be owners, because we knew that down the line, maybe that's what we wanted to be in. Because, like I said, I drove that ring truck, and I remember I sold tickets. I made the settlement, and I remember the promoter had come up to me and said, okay, put 30% over here to the talent and put 70% over here on this stack over here. And that 70% was his stack, So I learned at an early age, where the most money was going to. It wasn't going to the wrestler. It was going in a promoter's pocket, So I thought, well, this isn't a bad way to go. So we ended up buying bits and shares of different wrestling, Georgia and Florida. But the one in Georgia is the main one. We bought we had between the two of us about 25%. Then there was a couple other guys that Paul Jones, an old time wrestler from Purdue years ago. He owned that 25%. So we figured if we get him and us and another guy, we'd have controlling interest. So Georgia was a great place. We were breaking loose back in when WTBS, the Superstation, when cable was really busting open and cable TV was the thing. You know, it was the greatest thing for television, for entertainment ever. So we ended up controlling the Georgia territory with a voting proxy of old Paul Jones and my brother and myself and one other partner. And so it got to the time where, okay, we need to expand, but the loyalties to the other promoters in the NWA was so tight that nobody wanted that. Superstation was going everywhere, and people were sending their top talent to us in Georgia, so we could use our TV time to promote other guys' talent. And my brother and I started talking, hey man, you know, all these guys, you know, why don't we need to go bigger. We need to be in these places instead of creating other stars. Let's create our own stars and go to their places. But our partners didn't want to do that. This was at the same time that Vince Jr. was taking over his dad's promotion.
Okay.
Well, Vince Jr. had the same vision that we had. And so, you know, we did the proper thing because we were loyal to NWA. We went around and we offered NWA members our shares in Georgia Championship Wrestling, and you know, to sell, because we wanted out. We saw the writing on the wall that Vince was going to go globally, and we were going to get stuck behind no matter what vehicle we had. But Vince also saw that WTBS Georgia as the main vehicle for his product to go nationally and internationally. So he wanted that. So one day we were in Jim Crockett Jr.'s office, and Roddy Piper had already jumped to WWF at the time, working for Vince, and we had heard that he severed his fingers and might have to have his fingers amputated. So Roddy was a good friend of everybody there. So we were in Crockett's office, and Jack said, let's call Vince and see if Piper's okay. And Crockett said, I won't call that asshole. He's trying to steal my territory. I'm not going to call him. So Jack said, do you mind if I call him, find out how Piper is? He said, if you want to call him, call him. So Jack picked up the phone, called Vince Jr., and during that, that's how Piper was, and Piper was going to be okay. Vince had got him a specialist, and they saved his fingers and all that stuff. So, but in the conversation, Vince said, Jack, can you talk? And he said, no. And he said, well, just listen. He said, I understand you guys are shopping your shares around for Georgia Championship. Would you be interested in talking to me? And Jack said, yes. He said, well, when you leave, when you get home and you're in a private place, give me a call and we'll talk. So, great. So we hung up the phone, and Piper's okay, and we finished our business there at Crockett's office, and we went to Jack's apartment, and we immediately called Vince. The next Thursday, we just happened to be off. We were in Richmond, Tennessee, on Norfolk, Tennessee on Wednesday, and we were or Thursday, and we were off on that next day. So Vince flew us from Virginia up to New York, and we met with Vince, and back then there was Eastern Airlines. We met in one of their VIP conference rooms, and we worked out a deal, a gentleman's agreement, handshake agreement, nothing ironclad, that we would sell events. And so the negotiations, what you got to realize, there was no internet in there. I doubt if we could have kept it a secret, but even back then it was hard to keep a secret in wrestling. But we didn't trust anybody. We didn't tell anybody, because what we were doing was getting ready to change a lot of people's lives and really the entire business as they knew it back in the 70s. And so we finally worked out a deal. It took us about 6-7 months to do it, but we finally did, and we made to sell events, and we both retired from the money we got from selling the stock. And so Jack permanently retired, and I was only like 35 years old. I was too young to retire, and I wanted to do something. So Vince called me and asked me if I wanted to do some promotional work for him, because I knew the South, and I said sure. So I thought I was just going to promote Tampa area because I was living here. I ended up promoting 9 states for him, and they all the states and all the markets I did were doing super. So I really got over with him because I was making him a lot of money. So they changed the pay method on the independent promoters on what they were paying, the percentages and everything. And I got a little upset, so I called Vince. I said, Vince, I can't work for your new deal. We need to do something different. And he said, well, I've been thinking about you doing something different anyway. Would you like to come up and work in the office with me and help me with creative and help me with the company? And I said, as long as I don't have to move to Connecticut, I'll do it. And so we worked out a deal. I wasn't going to move to Connecticut. And I almost lost my job once because I told him the only thing good in Connecticut is I-95 South. And he didn't like my humor. And when I told him people from Florida don't move to Connecticut, people from Connecticut move to Florida.
Right.
He just didn't like my logic. But anyway, he liked me. And I've been with him 35 years since. So I've held various positions from a local promoter to matchmaker to problem solver to whatever role I needed to cover. I did what Vince didn't want to do.
Makes sense. So you retired, quote unquote, from actually in-ring competition in the 80s, became in the back office. Was that a natural progression to the role you play now of talent scout? Like, what was that path like?
Well, the talent scout is something that you always thought. And I got a letter that I'm going to give to Triple H that I wrote to Vince in 1995 or 94. I forgot. I don't know the exact date on it, but the letter that I proposed, the system I propose, is an exact system of NXT where we not only train wrestlers, but we're training TV technicians, we're training commentators, we're training everything. I did a proposal in 1995 and sent to Vince McMahon here in Florida at the old Florida office, the Sportatorium, buy the Sportatorium and turn it into a training school. Because we knew all the territories, what I described earlier about the territories, all of them were going dry. In the 80s, we could cherry pick because our business was so good, and the local territories business were sucking because we were taking over and everybody wanted to see us. So we could cherry pick all the talent. Now this is 1980, 83, 84, 85 when we first started WWE with Vince Jr. As we know it today. And so by the mid 90s, all those territories were drying up. And when the territories dry up, what else dries up? Talent pools, right? You don't have any talent out there running around that you can cherry pick, go and say, hey, this guy's over in Minneapolis, I want him, and they'll pay him X amount of money, or this guy's big in Dallas, and I want to pay him X amount of money. We'd run out of those guys because we'd already had them all. So we had to start worrying about what are we going to do to create our own product from now on. So that's hence that it was me, Bruce Pritchard, JR, and Pat Patterson. We all had to sit down and write a proposal. Where are we going to get our talent in the future? How are we going to get our talent? How are we going to make our talent in the future? I never saw their letters, but I still got my letter, so I can back up my story up. So I come up with that method of having your own facility and your own training facility. Not only train the wrestlers, but train all your auxiliary people along with it there. So being a talent scout, we had no such thing as a talent scout. And I'd found Hogan, but I found him accidentally. And I found a couple of Kevin Nash, it's unknown. It's not unknown that I found him, but I was a friend with a building manager through my promotion. And I was a building manager in Atlanta, Georgia. And Kevin had just finished playing basketball at Tennessee and didn't make it professionally because he had an injury. And so he was a bouncer at a strip bar in Atlanta, and this building manager happened to go in there and meet Kevin. And he said, "Hey, man, you ever thought about wrestling? I know one of the guys that's higher up. He might be able to help you." And Kevin said, "Well, I'd like to talk to him." So it's Mike Ocean's the guy's name. He's manager of the old Omni there in Atlanta. So Mike sent me back in. He faxed me a picture of Kevin. Kevin had just done a Mr. Georgia bodybuilding contest, and he looked like a great guy. And I never will forget the day when I got the picture where we were going to Pensacola, Florida, And Hulk Hogan had chartered a plane from Tampa to Pensacola and asked if I wanted to fly on the plane. I said, sure. So I had that fax with me, and I showed that fax to Terry on the way up there, Terry being Hulk. And he said, damn, looks like you found another Hulkster here. And I said, well, I'm hoping so. And he said, well, you trying to run me out already? And I said, no, but you got to look at the future. So I'd recruited Kevin Nash and, a couple other guys along the way without ever even doing it. And I'd always go to the national tournaments. If I'd see somebody at the national tournament I liked, I would always try to make contact with one of the coaches. And even back then, I was still a lot of my teammates like Bobby Douglas and Tadaki Hata and those guys there that I wrestled in school with, they were still active in coaching. So I always had an end to the coaching side of the deal where I could talk to guys where other people couldn't. So like with Jay Robinson, Jay and I were recruited in the same recruiting class at Oklahoma State. So when Brock came along, Jay and I worked out a deal where I wouldn't talk to Brock during his junior year because Jay was afraid he would leave and not come back for his senior year. So Jay made me promise I wouldn't talk to him until he was a senior, and I had to give him my word that Jay in return said, after he wins the national as a senior year, I'll have him in here, and I'll also have a bonus for you here. And I said, he said, if you won't talk to him until then, I said, I give you my word, Jay. And a week after the national tournament, Jay Robinson called me, and he had Brock Lesnar in the office. And I said, well, what's my bonus? And he said, I got Sheltan Benjamin here, too. I said, who's that? Well, Shelton turned out to probably be one of the best athletes that ever joined the WWE.
Yeah, for sure.
So I got 2 for 1 because of Jay being, Jay and I being in the same recruiting class at Oklahoma State. So, but see, even we didn't have a talent recruitment department as such. So, and as time went on, JR and I started really talking about where we're going to get this thing on. And JR said, "What have you ever thought about what you're going to do when you get out of the business?" I said, "Well, JR," I said, "I've done a pretty good job finding the talent." I said, it's a natural field out there for us. I'd like to be a talent scout." He said, "That's not bad." So we kind of sat down and planned that out. So I started having health issues in the mid '90s, and so I had to get off the road where I couldn't do the producing job anymore. So my doctor said, "You can't travel like that anymore." And I said, "Well, can I travel some?" And he said, "Yeah." So I called Vince. I said, "Vince, I can't. I've got to quit." He said, "You're not quitting nothing." He said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Well, you and your wife sit down and talk and see what you can do and clear it with your doctor." So started thinking about it a little bit, and that all of a sudden that conversation with a good old JR popped in my head about talent scout down the line.
Yeah.
So I sent Vince a little business proposal, about being a talent scout, and I immediately got a response back to him, "When you want to start?" I said, "Well, this was, I think, in September." I said, "Well, wrestling season starts in November." He said, "Send me your schedule, and I'll stamp it, and you go get us who you need to get and go where you need to go." So they've been good to me. They've sent me down to Rio to the Olympics. They sent me to Paris, for the World Championships. Yep. And we're scouting now. Now we got like 5 guys in the scouting department,
Wow.
which is a department now. So it's growing like crazy. But
and I'm so interested too. So, 3 different questions from that. One, so guys like Brock Lesnar and Sheltan Benjamin, they weren't interested in WWE until you approached them, and then that's hey, why don't you guys try this? That was more the route they took.
It wasn't that they weren't interested; they just didn't know the process of getting to it. They were both interested, very interested, as soon as they found out. But we had no, there was no internet. I mean,
right.
We're going back, there was no Facebook, no Twitter, no Instagram, none of that stuff. So there was no way to show your interest in it. If somebody wanted to do it, I've run across a lot of guys. Man, if I'd only known, that there was an opportunity, I would have done that.
Right.
But now I'm out there, and I'm pretty outgoing, and I still know a lot of coaches and a lot of people and everything, and I'm out there promoting our product, and it's an option. I sell it as an option. It's not for everybody. And then, a lot of guys, I think, they can't do it. They get down here, we bring them down to NXT for a tryout, and either the verbal skills or something is lacking in them, the charisma. it's not all their fault, because we're taught, like I said, I started at 6 years old, and we're all taught, have respect when you leave, have respect for yourself and all this stuff, and don't make an exhibit of yourself on the mat, and that's what always frustrated me. These kids win, and nowadays ESPN and Flow Wrestling has done so much to bring the backstage element,
right,
and to build emotional attachment to these kids than ever before. And before that, you never got a chance to see the emotion of these kids after they win a national title.
Right.
All you see is running to the back. That is the biggest disgrace, biggest disservice to our sport that ever. But Flow Wrestling come along and open up that backstage. Now you can see these kids' emotion, and they're so good at getting these kids right there and ask them those hot questions that these kids. You can see their emotion, you can see their passion, and as a promoter and as an entertainer, I can tell when these kids are talking. Hey man, some of the best. That kid from Rutgers a couple of years ago cut the greatest promo I ever heard in my life. And,
there's some great ones. Bo Nickel had a great one a couple of years ago. I think it was last
Bo
year.
Nichols had a
great promo.
Yeah, and a lot of them do, but still my favorite one, and it was on the Big Ten Network. Might as well give my lace 'em up buddy Jim Gibson's a great plug, and Sean Sparks, I think, he asked that kid from Iowa about winning the Big Ten and about his mullet. And he said, growing a mullet is about like winning a Big Ten championship. It don't happen overnight.
Right.
To me, that was the greatest line I've ever heard in amateur wrestling.
Yeah, that was a great one. That was Sammy Brooks, I believe, after he won.
Yeah, okay, Brooks, whoever was it. One of those Iowa kids.
Yeah. So,
I'm an Okie.
So we'll continue with this guy, but one more question real quick about this path. So you have health issues in the mid-'90s. You stop kind of traveling. But then there was that time after the infamous Montreal Screwjob. You're on TV. And then you have like a 3-year run. Like, what led to you wanting to be back in the front lines, being on TV and being on the front? I'm imagining you had to start traveling again.
That was totally an accident, and what a great time! It was the greatest time I ever had in the business, because it was completely different from what my personality is, and
right.
And being a stooge, I could do no wrong. The more mistakes I made with my verbiage and the more I made of myself, the more over we got with the people. And the first 2 segments we run, all of a sudden we get minute by minute ratings. We'd look in those ratings, and our segment, Pat and I, when we'd do that stooges thing, the ratings would spike at that time. And, hey, this thing is getting over. It wasn't planned. It was just something that we needed. I think it was over Stone Cold, and we had had a board of directors meeting, and Pat and I were on the board of directors at, so-called full board of directors at that time, for TV reason. And we had a little private meeting, and Vince said, all right, you guys take care of business, And all of a sudden we were attached to Vince as Vince's stooges, and it was just totally an accident, but it started building, and Pat hated it, but I loved it because I was having a good time with it, because it was totally opposite of how my personality is, and I enjoyed doing it. I'd go back and do it again if I could.
So it was all accidental. Like you're on TV. I remember watching. Like that's when I got into pro wrestling. I remember you like ushering HBK to the back. And then I remember you were on TV regularly after that. Like that was, I don't know, it was infamous.
But it wasn't, that was just strictly for protection and getting Sean the hell away from the ring.
Right.
It had nothing to do with, at that time, we weren't even stooges. I mean, I wasn't even an on-screen character at that time.
Right.
I was someone Vince trusted to do something. Like I said, I did what Vince didn't want to do.
Yep.
And so the post-production meeting that we had for that event, I was asked to stay afterward by Vince and have a private meeting with him, and I wondered, how have I screwed up, and why am I getting fired,
Right.
And then he laid it out to me what he had in mind and asked me if I thought we could pull it off. I said, yeah. And he said, well, you're the guy that's going to do it then. Congratulations. in your hands. So
wow.
He gave me the ball, and I ran with it. So my deal when I ran out there, it wasn't for me to be on air. It was for me to help Sean get the hell out of there before those crazy Montreal fans come down and beat the crap out of him. And
right.
They were on the verge of doing that. So, and I don't know. I think I picked it up. There's even my voice went in there. We're going toward the back. Sean, put that belt over your head because they were throwing that chairs and everything else they could throw at us. So I wanted him to protect us. I said, put that belt over your head. That even came up in a trial. I had its testimony I had to do. Why did you tell Sean that? I said, because I didn't want him to get knocked out and me have to carry him out. So I wanted him to cover his head up with that belt. But we got him out of there, and that's what I mean. And then, I was closely associated with Vince because word got out that I was the guy that orchestrated the setup there. And then when Stone Cold came along, we had to have somebody to feed Vince to. So me and Pat were the guys there because we were the close associates with Vince, and it only made sense that he and I be out there with him. So it was just a pure accident. It really was. I mean, I'd like to say, yeah, we sit down, we brainstorm, we come up with this thing, and it just clicked like crazy. But it's just one of those things that just happened to get over, and our personalities just happened to click with the audience out there, and we become the Stooges.
And it was perfect. Like, you literally can't write that stuff. Like it was such a natural, good thing, and it lasted 3 years. I mean, it definitely was
3 damn years. Believe that. I mean, and I tell you a funny thing about it. I was doing volunteer coaching because both my kids are high school wrestlers. And I'd walk into these gyms, and my wrestlers, they really had a ball with me because they would all form a circle around me because all these other kids and parents and referees and everybody was wanting my autograph, and I was a damn volunteer coach, and my kids, Mr. Brisco, don't worry, we're your protection. Like we go to these tournaments, how you set up my bleachers, they had kids sitting all around me to stop people coming up to it. What do you want from me? Mr. Brisco goes, all right, they take a picture with you or something like that. That's sure, But my kids loved my wrestlers loved it, and they were along for the ride with me, which I really enjoyed taking them along with it, But the only thing they gave me grief about was when I had to dress up in a dress.
That was when you did drag at what, King of the Ring, I want to say, right?
King of the Ring, exactly. In Boston, Mass. I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
I hated that, and that was Michael P.S. Hayes' idea.
Well, it went over great.
He blames it on Vince, but I blame it on him.
Yeah, it went over great. So after the 3 years in that, then it seems like you kind of transitioned back into the back office, talent scouting. What was that like, going back into talent scouting? And were you excited to get kind of back behind the scenes?
Yeah, it gave me time to really focus on that because when you're on air talent, we're doing things live. I mean, you might be in the middle of planning out the strategy for a live pay-per-view, and all of a sudden you got to go on air. So you got to leave these two guys in the middle of a strategy session and lose your train of thought, and all of a sudden switch and start thinking, okay, what have I got to do for my segment here? So after we finished off the run as the Stooges, and I was able to focus backstage, it was so much better because I had time to really do my job then.
Yeah, and it was, you can tell you have a passion for that too. I mean, being on air talent, I can't imagine how much fun that is. So talk to me a little bit about, it's interesting because doing what I do in marketing, it's different worlds, but I'm constantly watching these kids because I want to help them when they get out of college with websites and growing their brand and social media and all that. So I'm constantly watching for who I think is going to be a star, who's going to have a big brand. What do you look for? Is it just a plethora of things? Like you're looking for size, how you speak? One of the negatives I'd say, I guess, about NCAA wrestling is there are no interviews. Like you said, Flow Wrestling does a great job now, and ESPN, these guys do a great job now, but especially in the early 2000s, as you're transitioning back into the scouting, all you can really go by is matches. Like, how were you discover somebody? Like, to discover somebody, like Brock Lesnar or Sheltan Benjamin or any of these guys, what, aside from size or mass or anything else, like, what do you look for in that?
Well, that's a great question. I sure wish somebody would write me a book on that, and maybe I should write one on it. I don't know what I'm looking for. People ask me, what do you look for, Brisco? But, I don't know what it is, but when I see a guy, I know. There's just that feel about it. But, the obvious thing, I can sit here and tell you, it's the obvious thing. You look for somebody, first thing you look for is size, But everybody's not blessed to be a beast like Brock Lesnar. But,
right.
There's the Kurt Angles out there, the 5'11", 6 foot guys, the 210, 20 pounders, that load. I used to kid to Ben Askren. I was after Ben Askren I saw Ben, he wrestled his first national finals, and I want that guy. I remember sitting there in that St. Louis auditorium, Kiel Auditorium. All of a sudden, Askren come up, and I didn't know Askren because I didn't really, honestly, I didn't follow the middleweights at that time like I do now. I follow all the weights now because I'm a fan, and I love it. So back then, I was just looking at the bigger weights. So I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, I heard this roar come up, and I see this kid coming out with a big afro. Who in the hell is this? I see Ben walk out there. I see the charisma in that guy. I always tell Ben, and Ben laughs about it every time we see each other. Remember when you approached me, I said, Ben, if you were a foot taller and weighed another 50 pounds, I'd make you a millionaire. I said, well, you're already a millionaire. So,
right.
But he had it. If he would have been Brock's side or anywhere, Kurt's side or anywhere in the 90s, I would have had him. And Ben was a great guy, a great kid to deal with. But I just look for guys that's got a little, 6'2", 6'3". That's the ideal height, really, for these guys. I mean, we like them taller, of course, and we like them shorter also. But and then I watch them in the tournament. If I'm going out, and getting ready to go out to the I think it's a Roadrunner Classic out in Bakersfield in a few weeks. And it's a bunch of West Coast towns, and I never get to see a lot of these West Coast schools and a lot of smaller schools. But I've seen guys, that I see them walk to the mat, and if I like what I see, then I'll watch them during the tournament. I'll watch how they communicate with their teammates. I watch the interaction with them and the coaches. I watch the calls. I watch their facials when they get bad calls and the reaction in their face. I watch it when they get beat, how they respond if they're babies and throw their headgears and blaming everybody and pointing fingers or their demeanor after that. I watch personality a lot, and then I start talking to the coaches, or if I see somebody from their team, a parent or something like that. You get so much information from parents sitting in those bleachers. It's unbelievable. Right. I mean, I can get somebody's life story just sitting next to somebody. Right. And one kid I recruited, a Division III kid, I come in, I sit down at this tournament. It was out in Pueblo, Colorado. I remember exactly where it was. Just happened to sit down, walk down. I was running late, sit down. The big boys are getting ready to come on, and the heavyweights are lined up, and there's the line of heavyweights, and at the end of the line is a 6'7" guy with bleached blonde hair, had on purple. And I just noticed people next to me had on purple, and I looked and I said, "You know who that kid down there? Yeah, that's our son." Why? And I said, "Well, I'm from the WWE." "Well, you got to be kidding. He loves the WWE, And just, I sit there talking, and, well, how about this kid? And the parents, they know the life stories and the pluses and minuses on every one of these kids, So
right.
I just sit there and I BS in those bleachers. I find out all the information I want. If I need more information, I usually know a contact to the coach, and I call the coach, and we talk a little bit, and the coach will tell me yay or nay on the citizenship part of it, and then we're off and running, But it's just a plethora of things that you look for, and it's just not one thing that you look for, I mean, I've seen guys with great height and great weight and great skills that had zero presence on the microphone. And I don't want to say his name, but you can probably put it together because you've been a fan a while.
Yep.
There was this monster from Michigan State a few years ago that looked like he could be another Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
Put a microphone in front of him, and we're lucky to get his name out of him. And so, of course, he couldn't make it. He didn't make it.
Yeah.
And he blamed everybody else but himself.
Yeah, and it's funny too. I'd imagine. I mean, you've been scouting in essence since the 90s. So I mean, 20 years of it. I'm sure you've seen the progression. What has the progression been like on both? From your side, you have the internet now to use at your advantage. But what is it like on the other side? I mean, now kids are growing up. The number of kids that literally are like really, really young kids, and they want to be the next John Cena. They want to be the next Undertaker. They want to be a superstar. Have you noticed the desire in being a WWE superstar going up because of how big it has gone?
Yes, I've noticed the progression of that, and the perception of the WWE has just improved so much in the last few years because of our exposure and because of what we've turned into. And we're not in competition with NCAA wrestling or
right.
USA wrestling. We're entertainment. And I tell the guys, hey, we're strictly entertainment. And, it's not about winning and losing. It's about putting asses in seats. That's
right.
all we care about. We don't care what your record was in college or in international. We care if you got the personality to put an ass in that seat, and that's all we care about. And but the perception and the great thing about it is, I look around. A lot of these coaches are your age, and they grew up in that attitude era. So when
right.
I show up, I'm showing I'm not as just another fan or another businessman, and they know my background. They know I came from the same background they did. They know I came from a nationally recognized program that was successful, and I've been around. I was teammates with Yo-Yo Utaki, which I think was the greatest college wrestler of all time, and some of the all-time greats. I was in the same wrestling. I shared a wrestling room with those guys. And so coaches know that. So they know I'm not going to BS them. They trust me. I gain their trust. And the perception of our business now is not the old greasy old guys that, the old carny hackers and stuff like that. We're looked upon now as athletes and entertainers, and that's due to the hard work of our current talent and the guys that we come in. So the perception of us is not like it used to be. And I wouldn't say it's easier, but you mentioned WWE, and used to, guys would turn their heads and, put their noses up. Now, oh yeah, I'll watch, I've watched. I wouldn't say I'm a fan, but I've watched. I'm aware of it. Well, have you ever thought about doing it? No, I didn't know there was an opportunity. So it goes back to opening that door to letting people know, and people like you that interview me, and Jason Bryant that's become a friend of mine, and other Kyle Klingman, all these guys, and Flow Wrestling Crew.
Yep.
They're all out there, and if they see somebody, they're always calling me. Hey, Brisco, or send me a text. Hey, Brisco, have you seen this guy?
Yep.
So. I rely on you guys. I rely on the amateur media. I don't say amateur media, but the media that covers collegiate wrestling. I rely on you guys because you guys are out there and you know the personalities, and you guys see their habits and their demeanors at tournaments, and see if they're good citizens. And I that's the third time I said the citizenship. Our guys now, you mentioned John Cena. He's the number one guy in the entire world on Make-A-Wish Foundation grants, I mean, that's unbelievable. Here's a professional wrestler. He's the number one guy in the world, entire world, over soccer players, race car drivers, every other kind of athlete in the world. More kids are requesting him. Why? Because of the exposure.
Right.
Well, I had a kid a couple of years ago wanted to be a spokesman because he had a disease. I want to be a spokesman. I said, well, you want to be a spokesman in front of 75,000 people or 75 million people? We can help you get in front of 75 million people to fight your battle and to get you exposure for your cause.
Right.
That's the opportunity that we present. Look at all of our guys now that become major movie stars. They're John Cena, Dave Bautista, Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah.
I mean, we're producers look at us, our talent, say, all right, they've already been in front of big people, big audiences. They're not intimidated. They've been in front of the camera, so they're not intimidated by the cameras. They've been in front of superstars, so they're not intimidated by other superstars in the movie. So, you know, we got it licked. We set these guys on a good trajectory to a great after wrestling career also. So we have a lot to offer, not only in the ring, but the opportunities that come from having the exposure. Now we're on broadcast TV on Fox Network, you know, and that we're even exposed to a greater audience now, and the perception is out there. We're advertised on every major event in the world now. So because we're on Fox TV, so it's just, if you have a cause that you want to do, if you have a commitment that you want to fulfill, the door is for the WWE is an opportunity. A lot of these college kids that's wide open that they can take a look at. And I always tell them to have an exit plan like mine, but mine lasted a little bit longer. You know, I'll
Right.
take it one of these days. But
Have you noticed too that does it get easier in, let's say, 2019, 2020 to scout talent because of how popular WWE is? Like, I imagine it gets a little bit easier and you can kind of have more talent to work with, and you're not forced to take somebody on who's maybe not that great, but you need the talent. Like, I imagine there's such a plethora. Because like you said, guys my age and guys that grew up in the Attitude Era, like, you walk in with such clout, you walk in with such respect and admiration that you're getting your phone, your calls answered, you're getting your text answered, you're getting in any door you want. Do you notice that it gets easier because you have more of a plethora of talent available?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's getting easier because of that. I think it's getting easier because of the work and because people are getting to know me, and they kind of use me as an example. Hey, if he's like this and he's one of their execs, you know, they must have good people working for them, and I take pride in that, you know, and I always try to present myself in a respectful way that I don't do anything to embarrass, number one, myself, because I come from that background, and I want to be welcome in that background, and I am. 2 years ago, I was named Outstanding American in the Florida chapter of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, so I take a lot of pride, you know, in my background, and coaches know that, and they know I'm not gonna. If I have a guy, I mean, Kerry McCoy is a great friend of mine. He had a kid, and I said, Kerry, I'll give him a tryout because you recommended him. But I don't think he can make it. And he came down there and he gave it the old college try, and the guy did a good job. But once again, it was just that he was lacking that one special deal, that verbal skills, and he just didn't have the talent to make it, you know. And so I had to call him and I say, hey, you know, his verbal skills let him down, you know. And so it's not for everybody.
And that's kind of one of my
that one guy it's for is he can do whatever he wants to with it.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of my final questions for you is, if there's somebody listening right now who they want to be a WWE superstar, they know they want to, what is it that you think they should work on? Or, you know, it sounds like there's a pattern of people who don't have the vocal skills. Is that, would you say, something that people should really work on if they have, you know, some of the more obvious traits, like work on your vocal skills?
I'm going to tell you something right now, and you can ask anybody, and I got a lot of kids I brought in from D2 and D3, and they didn't quite make it. But you know what? I see I'm really proud because it just goes to the character of the kid that I try to recruit. I see more and more of the kids that I brought in for tryouts down on the floor coaching now than I ever have before, because I've been doing it now for 8-9 years, and so there's a lot more of them. But they're coaching, so I tell you they were good quality of kids, but the basic thing of it and you can ask anybody that I've ever recruited on my final emails. I bombard them that last week before they go to last month before they go to camp. I bombard them with emails and text messages: cardio, promo. I tell everybody, you're an athlete. I know you're an athlete. You're an All-American, or you're a national champion, or you're on a collegiate wrestling team. That means you're an athlete. That don't mean you're stumbling, bumbling fool. You can't no coordination. It means you're an athlete. So I'm not worried about that part. The part that I'm worried about, you do that for 2.5 days. Then that last half a day you're there, you got 1 hour we devote. We give you the microphone, and we give you 60 seconds. You can stumble and bumble a little bit out there on that mat, and we can attribute that to nervousness and stuff like that, and you don't know, the feel of our ring, and it's totally different. You ought to see some of these guys come in. I'm going to jump off the subject here just for a second here, but the ropes are the biggest fear that I've ever seen in these All-Americans, national champions, and even football, NFL. We have NFL football players come in. They're afraid to hit those damn ropes. They're afraid to go through them. I said, hey, we got the big show. He's 6'8", 400 and some pounds. He hits those damn ropes, and very seldom have they ever broken. And you hitting them is not going to break them. So
right.
They tiptoe to the ropes. I said, don't do it like a. I say something I shouldn't say, and insult them.
Yep.
And then so to get them mad, so the next time they hit the ropes, they'll hit the damn ropes. But anyway, I tell them, you can screw up out there in that ring because we can attribute it to something. But when they give you that microphone 1 minute, that's the most important 1 minute that you'll ever have when you're trying out for a job with the WWE. So what I want you to do is find your favorite guy, whether it be Randy Orton, Triple H, or John Cena, or Daniel Bryan, or any of these guys, and listen to their promo. Watch their facial expressions. Watch their pitch, their deflections of the voices, Watch how they react when they get booed, their facials when they get booed. Or what's their reaction? Watch their comeback. Watch it when they get cheered. Watch how they pause. Watch the lapses in them, and study their rhythm of their speech. You don't have to watch them wrestle or work because you're not that good. And you won't copy that, but you can copy their style of interview. Study promos. Promo, and study. If you got a favorite, if you don't, just go online and you can find one and watch several of them until you find somebody that you think you identify with, and study their style of speaking. And it's the guys that get that microphone that make the money.
Yeah, no, for sure. Wow. Well, listen, I could talk wrestling with you for hours, but I'm going to go let you enjoy that Florida weather. We will talk soon. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show.
I hope we run across each other at one of these tournaments, man.
Yeah, listen, I'll be at NCAA's. I'll be at the Big Ten, so dinner on me.
Okay, you got it, man.
What a guy. Gerald Brisco, you are welcome back on this podcast anytime. Ladies and gentlemen, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. Leave a 5-star review. Send us some feedback. Let us know what you're thinking. This was such a blast. I'm definitely going to see what I can do to bring on more WWE guys, especially fun with the NCAA Olympic Wrestling crossover. Let me know what you guys think, though. Shoot me a message. My name is Justin Bash, and you just listened to the Baschamania podcast.
And the beat goes on, goes on, goes on, goes on, goes on.